Alrighty, so today we're going to do another News of the Week episode, and we're going to actually jump straight into it because, like previous weeks, we have a lot of news to talk about, a lot of signings and transfer rumors that has happened, as it is the case as we're approaching the beginning of preseason. Well, actually, for some team, preseason has already started. We already saw some teams that have already have players start do their preseason training, and in just a bit, we're going to be getting games that is going to be in the preseason in a couple of weeks. So the first news we're going to talk about is the Josef Martinez Saga. Now, last week, I talked about the Josef Martinez Saga of how it seems like it's about to reach its conclusion of the fact that he is indeed going to be departing Atlanta United and Inter Miami is going to be the destination that he could be joined. Well, it seems like it is pretty much almost confirmed. I mean, Tom Broker mentioned this last week, and now Sam Schmeichel basically confirming the fact that, yeah, Atlanta is close to buy out Josef Martinez's contract, and he is going to be joining Inter Miami as a non-DP player. Now, the second part of this news is definitely key because this is definitely going to be an absolute steal for Inter Miami if they are able to get Josef Martinez as a non-DP player. Almost like it seems like a little bit too good to be true, like what happened a couple of years ago of a certain player that they try to sign as a non-DP player and try to sign as a max 10 player, and then they basically got busted because of that, and hence that's why they're in this sanction right now. But yeah, if this of course is going to be the case, then yeah, this feels like an absolute steal for Inter Miami. And I know this does create an interesting situation for Phil Neville, the fact that, you know, is he going to play a two-striker system? Is he going to put Josef Martinez and Leo Campana up front? Because I'm pretty sure Leo Campana is not going to be happy to play second fiddle to Josef Martinez, especially down the season. He was pretty much playing second fiddle with Gonzalo Higuain. But yeah, it does create an interesting situation. But overall, you know, just the fact that Inter Miami is able to get Josef Martinez and able to get him not on a designated player contract, maybe just kind of hint the fact that they are going to leave that deep spot open of a certain Argentine player that is going to be coming into this team in the summer transfer window. But overall, this would be a very great deal for Inter Miami, but for Atlanta United, it's kind of devastating because they could have got something out of this Josef Martinez deal. But again, I feel like, you know, from what I said before, I think the reason why it has taken this long for them to get rid of him is the fact that, you know, no teams is going to trade. Is willing to trade him, and the fact that Atlanta is going to be demanding a lot. Like, it's going to be record amount of GAM that they're going to be demanding teams, so they were able to get Josef Martinez, and the fact that teams simply just don't have that enough GAM or TAM, or even are not willing to take that risk. That's why we have been having this situation where it takes so long before Josef Martinez seems like he's finally going to be leaving Atlanta United to join another MLS team. And oh, by the way, I mentioned the fact that, you know, the news here on this board is not the only news that I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be using a second board once again just to show you guys that once again we had a lot of signings and rumors that surround in MLS. And in terms of the second signings that has been officially made is Charlotte FC getting Enzo Copati as a DP player. So this has been on the cards for a while now. I mean, it was getting to a point where it's not if Charlotte is going to get Enzo Copati, but when exactly the announcement is going to do. They finally announced it today that he is going to be joining the club, and I'm very interested to see how he's going to do, because this is definitely a big money signing for Charlotte FC. This has been what they've been chasing for pretty much the whole off season, and we'll see whether or not he is going to be a dynamic number 9 and a guy that can be a true goal scorer in this league. I mean, there's some that have said that he could be, but you know, we have seen before where there has been big transfers, especially South American and Argentine player coming to the league. There's been a lot of expectation that they can do well, and then they turns out to be a huge bust, and that's definitely something Charlotte will hope that is not going to be the case with their newly signing Enzo Copati. Now, speaking of big transfer fee and record transfer fee, so I mentioned in the last News of the Week episode that RSL was pretty close to get Carlos Andre Gomez on a club record transfer fee. Today, they officially confirmed that they, of course, have got him, and I think what I mentioned last time was like $4 million. And again, you know, for RSL, as I mentioned in the Moving Forward series episode, you know, it was kind of disappointed that, you know, the new ownership hasn't really kind of spent the cash to really improve the team, and now it seems like they have finally done it, and we'll see whether this is the beginning of what the new ownership have been mentioning, the fact that they are going to be more willing to spend money on like past RSL team. Now, moving on into the next news, we got Austin FC acquiring Adam Lundqvist from the Houston Dynamo in exchange for up to $500,000 general allocation money. Now, this is a very strange move because when you look at this Austin FC team, fullbacks is definitely not one area I thought they really need, especially getting Adam Lundqvist, who's been a regular starter for the Dynamo. He's kind of your average run of the mill kind of fullbacks in this league, where he's not a bad fullback, but he's not amazing. And the fact that they pay $500,000 in terms of getting him, well, up to that is, it seems like it's a bit of an overpay, especially with the way that they have John Gallagher in that spot, and that it feels like Adam Lundqvist is a very kind of similar type of player that what John Gallagher is for this Austin FC team. I mean, unless they're moving on from John Gallagher, this is a very strange move, and that again, $500,000 for the guy that has just been kind of an average kind of fullback, that is definitely a bit of an overpay. But it's not the first time we've seen Austin FC decide to overpay players, and it turns out to be well, and we'll see whether or not if Adam Lundqvist is going to be do well. I mean, he's definitely going to be sorely missed from the Dynamo fan base. He's been with that team for a very long time, and he's definitely one that is well loved in the Dynamo fan base. Now, FC Dallas have decided to sign HNK defender Amek Kortza, and this, I believe, might be the replacement for Matt Hedges that they lost in the offseason, although, I don't really know a lot about him and whether that indeed is going to be the case. And also, he's got some big shoes to fill, because Matt Hedges, he meant a lot to FC Dallas. He's definitely going to be remembered as a legend for that club, for him being a captain of that team for so many years. So yeah, no pressure. This new player that he's coming in, maybe fill in his shoes to see whether or not if he is going to provide that same leadership that Matt Hedges provide for this FC Dallas back line. Now, Inter Miami have signed Argentine left back Franco Negri, and this is, again, another very interesting one, and another one that I don't know a whole lot about him, other than the fact that, when we talk about players that come into Argentina, usually they're young players that is coming in to develop their career before eventually go off to Europe. But that's not the case with this guy. He's 29 years old. He's a veteran kind of left back, playing in South America for most of the time. But again, for Inter Miami, I don't think fullbacks was one of the area that they needed. They might need some more depth in terms of the center back position. But hey, getting him, I think maybe will be used in terms of using as a depth piece, or maybe he'll be a regular starter for this team. Now, Atlanta United have signed goalkeeper Clement Diop off of free agency. Now, I think that is now 3 or 4 goalkeepers that Atlanta United has. I mean, unless I think Rocos Rios Novos is off the book, and then one of the Chivas goalkeeper that they of course signed recently is also off the book. Yeah, I think that means that they're now have that goalkeeping position sort of, and that obviously it's going to be interesting to see the battle between Clement Diop and Quinton Westberg of who exactly is going to at least temporarily win that goalkeeping the starting goalkeeping position, because I believe Raguzan, he's still not back from his injury, and that I also think that it's kind of an interesting direction that Atlanta United is going with their goalkeeper. I mean, I'm not saying Clement Diop is bad. I mean, he's been around the league for a long time. He started also kind of becoming a bit of a journeyman goalkeeper to bounce around different teams in MLS. But yeah, he's got a shot to potentially maybe be the starting goalkeeper, because, like I said, between him and Quinton Westberg, they're going to be the goalkeeper that's going to be fighting for that temporary first team goalkeeping spot until Brad Guzan does come back from his injury from last season. Now, speaking of goalkeeper, the Chicago Fire, it seems like they have found a replacement for Gaga Slonina. They signed Jeff Gale from Swedish side, and I'm not even gonna bother pronounce. I mean, I would say maybe Degerfors. I think that's how you say. Actually, that's not one of the hardest name to pronounce in terms of Swedish. I always at times have trouble in terms of pronouncing these Swedish side, but I'll say that was a little bit easier to do. But what is in terms of this signing is, like I said, this is definitely a replacement for Gaga Slonina, and that one interesting fact about Jeff Gao is that he actually was was born in Chicago, so he's a Chicago native playing for his hometown team, and that, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he is going to do. I mean, they also said he's a regular starter for this Swedish side, so yeah, we'll see whether if he is going to, like, again, this is another thing about when you're of course coming in and trying to step in some big shoes to fill in what Gaga Slonina did for the Chicago Fire. Yeah, no pressure for Jeff Gal in terms of trying to replicate that similar type of performance. Now, NYCFC have signed clone to and former U.S. Youth National Team striker Gabe Siegel. That is, oh man, I don't know how I mispronounced that there. But yeah, this is an interesting one in a way where, I don't think he's going to get regular starting minutes. Maybe he's going to be a guy that could be used as a utility number 9, or a player that could be played for the reserve team, because again, anytime when you sign a player not from the Bundesliga but more like from a Bundesliga side that is the reserve side, most likely that is used for more for depth, or for players that are usually on the reserve team, or on an MLS Next Pro kind of team. Now, NYCFC have also re-signed Justin Hack to a new contract extension, and I'm kind of happy that they were able to do, because Justin Hack, he kind of is a player that kind of came out of nowhere, but finally was given the chances to play, and he definitely took advantage of that. I thought he did very well in that midfield for NYCFC last season, and he was rewarded by that for a new contract extension. Now, one midfielder that is leaving MLS is LAFC midfielder and former Orlando City midfielder Sebastian Mendes, who is going to be moving to Sao Paulo after LAFC decided to sell him. Now, this is kind of interesting with the way that, Sebastian Mendes, he's been getting a lot offer, because he did very well during his time with Ecuador in the World Cup, and that there was actually some European team that was looking to try to get him. So it's kind of interesting that he decided to go back down to South America, and Sao Paulo is definitely one of the more well-known team in Brazilian soccer. But again, I'm kind of surprised that he decided to go back to South America instead of making that jump to Europe. But either way, I think during the time with LAFC, he's another one of those players that he was only there just for depth reason, because LAFC have just such an embarrassment of riches, and that they can afford to basically sell off some of their depth pieces to not get hindered, because when you look at the squad, they still have a lot of good pieces, and especially still a very, very, very top heavy kind of team in terms of the depth department. I mean, even if they do lose one of their depth pieces in Sebastian Mendes. Now, speaking of a player that is leaving the club, we got Nashville SC have mutually part ways with Hawana Bawana. Remember when Hawana Bawana, doing his time with the Seattle Sounders, and how there was a lot of hype around this kid, and that, when he decided to join Nashville SC, I thought this is a good move for him to, of course, get some more minutes, because we've seen before where, young guys with the Seattle Sounders, or young players that is coming out of that Sounders Academy haven't really gotten a lot of minutes, because of the way that the Sounders haven't been willing to give a lot of minutes for some of these young guys. Well, it turns out that, with him going to Nashville, I thought he maybe will continue to develop his career. That didn't happen. It's been a kind of a huge disappointment for him, and that his player development has definitely stalled to a point where he was just getting no minutes for Nashville SC. So this was a no-brainer for them to decide to part way from him. But that being said, it's going to be interesting to see if another club decide to take his contract. Especially, I have heard rumors that St. Louis could be one of that team that looked to try to sign him again. Because again, I think when I look at doing his short stint with the Seattle Sounders, there's some potential that he could be a decent player. But unfortunately, Nashville just never able to get his player development right, and that we'll see whether or not if another team is willing to get that chance. Now, FC Dallas have mutually part ways with striker Franco Jara, and this has to be a huge relief for FC Dallas fan, because we talk about Dallas used to always sign some bad designated player, and that before this year they probably have one of the worst scouting department in terms of scouting for players that is not from their academy, because of signing some really bad or mediocre player to just bad contract. This was an example of it. And I think from the beginning, when I saw how Dallas was going to sign Franco Jara on a DP contract like that, and especially during his time with Pachuca, he was kind of a little bit underwhelming. It was never going to work out, and it's not a big surprise that it didn't work out for FC Dallas, but getting rid of him, that definitely clears up a lot of cap space and also open up a DP spot too when and finally free of a player that we talk about some bad DPs in the league. I think Franco Jara is definitely going to be right up that list as some of the worst DP players that we have seen in recent memories. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards, and now I'm going to actually look at some of the transfer rumors that has happened in these past couple of days. So now talking about some of these transfer rumors that has happened in the past couple of days, we start off with going back to LAFC, where there's a report saying that they are close to trading Franco Escobar to the Houston Dynamo. Now, I think this is definitely a good move for the Dynamo. The fact that, again, I know on the surface it seems like this is just another example of them maybe getting some reclamation project and maybe getting some placeholder in the process of their rebuild, but at the same time, I think maybe this ownership group realized that maybe they're close to start winning again than they thought that they are, and that they've been getting some good decent pieces, and Franco Escobar is definitely a decent piece for LAFC. I thought he played very well during his time with LAFC, and that I always not understand why exactly Atlanta United decided to let him go in the first place, but yeah, we'll see how much the amount is going to be. I'm assuming it's probably going to be a big amount, considering the role that Franco Escobar played for LAFC last season. And then we got Indiana Vasilev is reported to close to joining St. Louis SC. So Indiana Vasilev, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Elzinho during his time with the Union, where we talk about Elzinho probably is considered the best super sub of all time. I would say that can be said about Indiana Vasilev, but in a very underrated kind of way, because I don't think a lot of people realize that he makes a big impact with Inter Miami coming off the bench. And also, I would say, if I had to give him a nickname, I would say he's kind of the closer too, because he's a guy that always tends to score some big goals in the closing minute of a game for Inter Miami. We saw it a couple of times last year, and we saw it again during their second season. And I think this is definitely a good signing for St. Louis. And again, I'm kind of surprised Inter Miami decided not to retain him. I mean, I think it's because of the fact that he's not as effective when he is in the starting role, where he was a couple of times. But that's why I said I'm comparing him to Elzinho, because just like Elzinho during his time with the Union, he's a guy that is more effective coming off the bench, and a guy that is known to score some big goals late in the game. Now, Kai Kamara, he is openly saying that he's requesting a trade from CF Montreal. Now, this is not a big surprise, because Kai Kamara continued to try to reach the record for the amount of club that he has joined, as also trying to continue the legendary status of the greatest journeyman in MLS history. I mean, I swear, he's been pretty much in every single club doing his career, but now it seems like he's going to want to go to another club, maybe for one last paycheck, and that I don't blame him the fact that he has decided to leave CF Montreal, because Montreal, as much as yes, they have been able to kind of replace some of the players that they lost this off season, I just feel like it's going to be a year of regression, and that Kai Kamara kind of didn't want anything part of that. He wants to maybe be with another contender. And speaking of that, I feel like a contender should give Kai Kamara a chance, because I think Kai Kamara, what we saw last year with CF Montreal, he still got something left in the tank. Like, for a guy that is near the twilight of his career and is in his late 30s, he's a guy that looks like an ageless wonder, and a guy that can still score some big goals, especially in the air. So I won't be surprised there's going to be another MLS team looking to try to get Kai Kamara, but it's also not surprised the fact that he is requesting the trade, because again, continue that legendary journeyman status of joining another MLS team, but also the fact that he knows that there's no point of being with a Montreal side that is probably going to be regress badly. Now, the New York Red Bulls is close to finalize a long-term contract for Lewis Morgan. This is not a big surprise because Lewis Morgan was head and shoulder their best attackers last season, and that, yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a matter of time before they eventually do lock him up to a long-term contract. Now, Orlando City is reported to sign Argentine striker Romero Enrique from Banfield. Now, from what I heard, he definitely is one of those up-and-coming Argentine kind of player that can definitely do well in MLS and eventually sell them all for a big profit. And that, yeah, that's exactly what Orlando City is trying to do. I believe it's like a U22 initiative signing that they're going to do. And especially, you know, that obviously is something that they needed to address, knowing the fact that, you know, yes, I know they have Ajan Kara, and that Kara has been able to score double-digit goal. But if you look at how Ajan Kara played last season, you know, I didn't mention before in the Moving Forward series episode of Orlando City, he's very similar to what Kasper Schmeichel was when doing his time with the Philadelphia Union and also his time with Chicago Fire, where, yes, he has scored some goals and stuff, but he's also a guy that have missed some big opportunity and just frustrates the hell out of you, the fact that how in the world do you miss those chances when you were able to put that one away just a couple of games ago. So, you know, with him coming in, I think that will give some increased competition for Oscar Pereira's side, or maybe Oscar Pereira would like to just go with a two-striker system, and we can maybe see Enrique and Schmeichel, or not Schmeichel, I'm sorry, but Ajan Kara on the same side there in that number 9 position. Now, Sporting KC is interest in Hamburg left back Tim LeBoyd, and this is an interesting one in a way where, you know, for Sporting KC, I feel like the fullback position isn't one of the areas that they absolutely need, and I'll talk about in just a bit that it seems like they're actually going to be linked with a player that they or one of the spot that they really need on this team, which is the center back depth. But yeah, you know, this is a guy that I don't really know a lot about, and we'll see whether or not if he's maybe going to be used as a depth piece, or maybe if he's good enough, he could be maybe a starter for the Sporting KC team this season. Now, the Columbus Crew is looking to sign Colombian winger Juan Fernando Quintero. Now, I think this is definitely the replacement for Derek Etienne that they lost this offseason. But again, this is another one of those signings that I don't really know a lot about this guy, and whether if he is going to be like the Derek Etienne replacement that they hope. I mean, you know, replacing Derek Etienne and after what he did last season for the Crew is definitely going to be a tall task, but we'll see whether if this move does made, that I think this is definitely the replacement for Derek Etienne Jr. that they lost this offseason. Now, LAFC is report to sign goalkeeper Eden Jakovic from Everton. Now, this is a guy that is actually a veteran goalkeeper that is kind of almost near the twilight of his career. I mean, well, actually, as a goalkeeper, I think 38 years old, you still maybe have a couple of years left in the tank, but this is clearly a move that LAFC want to make because they need a backup goalkeeper that can back up Maxime Crépeau there. And not to mention, you know, Crépeau is going to be out for majority of the beginning of the season because he's still recovering from that broken leg that he suffered in MLS Cup. You know, LAFC is going to have to rest their shoulder on John McCarthy. And as much as I know John McCarthy will definitely submit his legendary status in LAFC folklore with him making those PK save, yeah, I don't think they would think that he is going to be a reliable kind of backup option, and that, again, it's going to be interesting to see whether if he is actually going to be thrust straight into the starting role, because like I said, you know, Maxime Crépeau is not going to be back in time before this season begins, and that it's going to be a battle between him and McCarthy of who's going to be just the temporary starting goalkeeper for this LAFC team. Now, the Vancouver Whitecaps is interested in signing Israeli striker Tao Berbo, or it's not Tao, it's Tay Berbo, and that this is kind of a signing that I think maybe is a replacement for Lucas Cavallini, who, by the way, I think last time I checked, he's still on the roster for the Vancouver Whitecaps, and that, again, it's interesting that they still haven't thought about getting rid of him, or maybe even decide to buy out his contract. But you know, there's another guy that I don't really know a lot about, and we'll see if he is going to be signed with this team, whether he can be that player that, you know, I think he's going to be a backup option for Brian White. I mean, Brian White is still going to be the regular starters, but we'll see whether if he can be a good backup option in that. And that again, if he is going to be signed, then there's no doubt that I think Lucas Cavallini is pretty much gone for this Vancouver Whitecaps team. Speaking of strikers, Minnesota United is linked with two South Korean striker in Hwang Woo-jo and Cho Gwin-sung. Now, I mentioned this a little bit in my Moving Forward series earlier today, and if you actually watch that video, you maybe can just skip a little bit forward to this video because I'll just repeat what I said. The fact that this is definitely interesting, and the fact that obviously with Luis Amarilla haven't been having the living up to the DP contract that Minnesota signed him, and doing his second stint that hasn't really lived up to what they were hoping for. Maybe they're looking for another striker to try and at least give some thoughts that maybe they could be the answer in terms of that cursed number 9 position that this team has been going through for the past couple of years. Now, in terms of these two strikers, if I want to say who most likely is going to be signed with this team, I don't think it's going to be Cho Gwin-sung, even though I know the Loons have created one of the most unique kind of tactics in terms of signing him, which is they decided that they're going to guarantee him a green card if he does sign with the team. Now, I don't think that, of course, is going to work out, and I don't know if the immigration service of the U.S. is going to get into this deal. But yeah, that's kind of interesting as one of the selling point, and that I don't think I've ever seen that in any of the selling point that teams wanted to sign a player where they guarantee them a green card. But nevertheless, the amount that Minnesota wants him, or the amount that they submit, is like $5 million, which is definitely a lot of money, right around the same amount that they got Reynoso a couple of years ago. But again, because there's going to be other teams, especially some European team like Mainz and Celtics are interested, that maybe could be a reason why I don't think he most likely is going to be coming to Minnesota United. Most likely he is going to be going to Europe. We'll shift our focus to the other striker, Hwang Woo-jo. Now, again, this is another striker that he's been kind of been in the Loons transfer target for the past couple of months. I mean, he was kind of first mentioned back in September, and while that rumor kind of died down a little bit, it seems like now it's reunited, and that it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to do, and especially during his time where he did play a couple of games for the South Korean national team in the World Cup. There's times where I thought he was kind of a little bit underwhelmed. But again, most likely he could be the guy that they would be signing if they're targeting these two South Korean striker. Or maybe they'll probably won't get any of them because they'll probably just get stuck with Luis Amarilla, and that I even mentioned before for the Loons. The biggest priority for them isn't really on the attack, even though I know the attack at times can be very frustrating to watch. It's still on the defensive front, and the fact that they haven't really been signing any defender besides Daniel Henry is very concerning for this upcoming season. Now, speaking of defenders, Sporting KC, as I mentioned earlier, they have looked like they're going to sign a fullback. Well, now it seems like they have made an offer to sign center back Norbert Gromberg from Serie A club Salernitana. Now, this is definitely a guy, from what I heard, he hasn't really had a lot of success with the club that he's joined in, and that, again, Sporting KC, they have signed a couple of center backs that are kind of a little bit questionable, and that I wonder if they decide to sign this guy again, whether that's going to continue the trend where they decide to sign a guy from Europe that was kind of questionable coming in, and they just never able to develop or did well in MLS. But again, this is a team that definitely needs some help in terms of the center back position, and also some depth too, and we'll see whether that, of course, will help out. Now, moving on in terms of the next news, and kind of now talking away from some of these transfer rumors and signings that we have seen for these past couple of days. Well, it is official that yesterday that Gareth Bale has announced his retirement, and that, I know it seems like it's a little bit early for Gareth Bale to kind of call it a day, especially with the way that he when he arrived LAFC, he basically said that he's not there just for a couple months. He's actually going to be there for a couple years and actually still compete at the top of the game. Well, yeah, I think maybe Gareth Bale is a little bit too interested in terms of some of the golf course in LA. I mean, I won't be surprised that Gareth Bale did at least decide to play a round of golf, or even almost every single day doing his time in LA, because there's a very good golf course down in Southern California too. But yeah, I think maybe that kind of got him in interest, the fact that, hey, I won everything. I won the Champions League. I won multiple title with Real Madrid, and now I won MLS Cup. I mean, there's really not much I need to of course keep winning to really cement my status as one of the most undeserved and probably one of the most underrated player of all time. I mean, I just feel like during the career that Gareth Bale has had, I feel like at times it's been especially during his time with Real Madrid, he was being criticized for his poor play, when in reality that of course is not the case. I mean, he was still putting some good number. Yes, he definitely had some injury issue, especially down the stretch, and that maybe kind of forced him to have an early retirement. But still, you look at how Gareth Bale has played during his time with Real Madrid. He was arguably, alongside with Benzema and Ronaldo, as one of the more impact players for that Los Blancos Galactico team during those Champions League run that they had. So yeah, what a career that Gareth Bale of course has had, and that, like I said, maybe those golf course kind of tempted him that, you know what, I'm not gonna come back. I'm just going to kind of not really be the man of my word, and decided to announce his retirement. And I don't blame him too, because when you win everything like that, why not just enjoy an early retirement from soccer and stuff like that. But either way, moving on in the next news, and actually moving on into the final news of this news of the week, we got Nick Gambaro named as the new GM of the Portland Timbers. So yeah, the Timbers have finally announced their replacement for Gavin Wilkinson. I mean, I was kind of surprised that they announced it like this soon, with the way that they were still going through a searching progress, and that, yeah, we'll see whether or not if he is going to be decent, because as much as I know Gavin Wilkinson will be leaving this Timbers side in disgrace because of what he did and involving in the scandal alongside with Mary Paulson. He definitely brought in some good pieces for this Portland Timbers side, and is definitely considered one of the best GM in the league besides the scandal. And that, again, that's going to be some big shoes to fill that Nick Gambaro will have to fill it in, and we'll see whether that, of course, would turns out to work well for this Portland Timbers side. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of this News of the Week episode. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments below, and make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe to this channel. But also let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these news that I've mentioned, and also from the previous sport, and also if there's any news that I didn't mention on this board and on the previous board, let me know in the comments below. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.